What's up, guys? Okay, so we're going to do another video similar to the one I had done in the past. This is about getting Kubernetes installed on an Ubuntu server or Linux server. I mean, I suppose it doesn't have to be Ubuntu, but if you follow along with Ubuntu, it'll be a lot easier, I think, because all the commands will work. We're updating the Kubernetes version. The last one I did was 1.26. This is 1.29. The Ubuntu server is still the LTS version, and it's similar. I think it was like 22.04.1 or something, and now it's 3. We're changing container D to 1.7 from 1.6. RUNC is going to be still 1.1, but it's .12 this time. And then the latest version of CALICO CNI, which is 3.27 versus I think 3.25 on the last video. So it's a very similar process. There are some slight differences that I bumped into, and I've got those written down in this text here. And we're going to create 3 different nodes. I'm going to do a control node and 2 worker nodes this time. I don't think I did that last time. I'm going to go through some stuff fast, and obviously if you don't have VMware ESXi like I've got, you could probably do the same kind of thing in VirtualBox or some other kind of virtualization platform. So let's get started, because this is going to take a little bit of time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create some VMs. I'm going to create all 3 of them at the same time now. I'm going to call the first one Kate's Control, and I'm just going to set the OS type. Oops. We'll go for Ubuntu. Put it on my terabyte disk. I'm going to do each one of these to have 2 CPU and 8 gigs of RAM, 50 gig disk. Put on my homeland. Choose the ISO for Ubuntu server. And it's going to be the 22.04.3. We'll say next and finish. And let's do the same thing again. Create virtual machine. Again, I'm creating 3 different ones. This one's Kate's 1, I think is what I was calling it. Yep. Okay, so then we go to Linux. It's Ubuntu 64. Same disk. 2, 8 megs, 8 gigs, 50. Homeland. ISO is going to be 22.04.3. Make sure I pick the right one. Don't want to have some discrepancy there. Actually, I don't even know how much it would matter if I picked the 01 versus the 3. Probably wouldn't even notice until you did updates and you're like, why are there so many updates? Okay, so let's see, 2, 8 gigs, 50. Pick my correct network. If you've got a simple setup at home, your network would just be the same thing. Okay, 22.04.3, 2, 8, 50. Finish. Okay, so let's go ahead and power up. I'm just going to power up all 3. So power these guys on. We're going to start with Kate's Control. And as soon as it gets powered up, hopefully I can power all 3 at the same time. Maybe the power on didn't work. Maybe I didn't click the button. That's interesting. I don't know. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, console. I'm going to look at Kate's Control console here. And I'm actually going to run these at the same time, because basically I'm going to be doing identical work for the install. And so we can just kind of do this for all 3 VMs at the same exact moment. I'll try to make sure that I keep them separate for you so that you don't get confused. Oh, I got these backwards, don't I? 1 and 2. Let's do it like this. Oh, that's probably a super small font too. So what if we were to take this window and make it a little bit bigger? Maybe that'll help a tad. No, I can't resize this window. Whatever. Limitations, I suppose, of ESXi, which, by the way, you can't even get anymore because Broadcom took away the free ESXi license. Just really quite unfortunate, because it's not like people are, at least my opinion, who's going to take this as for a business option and deploy this in their enterprise? Nobody. And if they did, they'd have better options. You could just go with XCP-NG or something instead of using ESXi if you want something that's free. So I don't know why they got rid of ESXi, but that's kind of unfortunate. I will be moving to XCP-NG at some point. Just I don't feel like rebuilding my infrastructure at the moment. I got a lot of stuff going on. And it takes a lot of time, and I have to get new hardware for it too. All right, so I didn't realize this is going to take this long to start. It's probably because I'm doing 3 at the same time. There we go. Okay, so very basic setup. I'm not going to update the installer. I do want Ubuntu server, not minimize. I do want to do static IPs just because it makes it a little bit easier for some of the other stuff. So 192.168.15.0/24 is my, I got extra characters, and then the address 192.168.15. This one's what did I say, 93? This one, and the gateway, what you would expect. Name servers is what you would expect for a simple network. Search domain doesn't really matter in my case. We're just going to say g.local. We're going to save that. And then done. No proxy. I have to wait for to find the mirror, so we can go ahead and multitask here. And I'm going to go over to one of these other ones. And we'll do the same thing. So we'll set this to manual. 192.168.15.0/24 is 256 addresses. Well, 254 usable. 15.94. This is Kate's 1. Kate's 1 is 94. Yep. 192.168.15.1 for the gateway. 192.168.15.1 for the DNS. Search domain is g.local. And go ahead and say done to that. Done. And we can go back up here and get this guy started. So we're going to go ahead and just use default disk settings. I don't want to do anything custom. Just let it do its thing for this demonstration purpose. Wait, yes, I'm sure. Okay, so my name is Geekhead. Not really. Dude, I can't type. Server name. This one is Kate's-control. Pick a username, Geekhead. Choose a password. We're going with something super simple. Don't do simple unless it's just like a lab or something like this one is. Okay, so make sure you install the OpenSSH server because we want to be able to SSH into these. I don't want to choose any options, not even like any of the kube containers or Docker or anything like that. We're going to do all of that stuff ourselves. And now that guy's off and installing. So now we can come back over here, do the same catch-up work on this guy. And we'll just, wait, yes, I want to continue. Okay, so Geekhead, still can't type. Server name, Kate's-1. What did I type that it didn't like? That's weird. It was telling me I can only do letters or numbers, and I thought that's what I did. Whatever. Okay. Yep. Install the SSH. No extras. Off you go. Okay, now last box. Continue without updating. Done. Yes, we want server. We are going to pick static IP again. 192.168. This one's 95 according to my notes. Oops, I'm in the wrong spot. /24. 192.168.95. Gateway 192.168.15.1. Name server 15.1. Search domain g.local. So basically the same stuff. 93, 94, 95 are the IPs that I picked. I mean, you have to decide what it's going to be in your own network. You have to know enough about your IP space to know what to pick. But it's really not that difficult. If it's /24, your IP range is typically anywhere from .2 to .254. And your routers are usually in the .1 range. Some of the steps I'm doing here, though, are like so my network's a 192 network, and then the pod network we're going to do is going to be a 10/ network because I don't want them to be the same range. The pod network's a /16, which would encompass lots of IPs, right? And so they can't be overlapping. At least I would not recommend them to be overlapping because you might have some kind of routing issue at some point. So just make sure the subnets don't overlap. So in my case, to make it real simple, 192 is the network, my internal network, and then 10/10, I think it's 10.10.00/16 is what I picked for the pod network. Okay. And this server is Kate's 2. Same. Gosh, that's so tiny I can't even see it. Install SSH. Done. Okay, so now they're all going. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video because this does take a little bit of time. All right, so one of them's done now, so we'll go ahead and reboot that one. It's the control. Oh, looks like this one's done too, so we'll go ahead and reboot that one. We wanted to dismount the CD disk or the ISO, so we'll go ahead and check that. And then this guy, last guy, I guess allows because I started that one pretty late. Okay. So I think this is, as soon as we're done rebooting this one, we're going to be done in VMware. I'm not going to do the rest of it in here. I'm going to do it all in my PowerShell prompt here, Windows terminal prompt. I just want to get this guy rebooting too. I'm going to pause it again real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so they're all rebooted. Well, this one's coming up, but the second node would be the last one we work on. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to our prompt here. I guess I can explain some of this stuff too. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to run a few commands here for configuring like DNS, because we don't have a DNS server in this environment. It's a lab environment, so we're just going to manually add the host IP, host name and IP to the host file, so that way when you try to resolve case controller, case 1, case 2, the Linux servers are going to know where to go for that. We're going to do some overlay network config, and then we're going to start downloading and installing each of the individual components. And so let's get started. We're going to connect into the, if I could type, Kate's control node first. I don't know why I'm saying Kate's control, because I don't have this on this computer. We're going to have to actually go to the IP. So 192.168.15.93 is the Kate's control node. You can see that right there. So go ahead and say yes. Type in my super simple password. I'm going to become root because I want to be lazy. So I'm going to run everything as root. All right. So first thing we want to do is put in the host stuff. And then we're going to set an overlay network setting here, and then some mod probe commands, and then modify some IP tables type stuff. And then honestly, I don't remember what this command does. It probably reloads the settings that I just populated. This is interesting. Setting key, accept source, invalid argument. Did I set those? IP forward, NF. I did not. I don't know what that is. It's kind of weird, but whatever. We'll just go with it. If you want to investigate that, you can. I'm pretty sure this will work. So let's go ahead and download the latest version of Containerd. Well, per this video, right? It's 1.7.13. And then we're going to go ahead and just extract it right into user local with this tar command. And then we want to get the Containerd service definition. So we're just downloading the service text and putting it right in systemd system. And then reloading the systemctl database, if you will, so that it knows that that service file exists now. And then we're going to enable the Containerd service. And basically that means just every time the server boots, I want it to run Containerd. Then we're going to go ahead and download and install RUNC, which is a requirement. Go ahead and just install that into user local sbin rather. And then we want to download CNI plugins. So we can use CALICO here. We're going to make a folder for opt CNI bin, and then we're going to extract what we had just downloaded into that bin folder. There you go. Now we want to make some settings for Containerd. This is important because by default, at least the last time I did this, the wrong systemd C group is chosen. So what we basically did with this command here is we used Containerd config default, generate a default config file so that I can make some changes to that config. And then we're going to put the config file here. So it outputs to the screen when you type this, and then we pipe it to T, which means split, do two things, a screen and a file. So we wrote it to the file config.toml. And we want to modify this file before we restart it. So you're going to change the systemd C group setting to true. I don't know why I don't have a VI command for that. We'll just put it right here. So that's the command I want to run. And we're going to edit this. Now, the reason I say not, like in my notes here, I said not systemd C group here, but like systemd C group. So there is a systemd underscore C group setting right here. Don't set this to true, because if you set this to true, then your installation will fail. What you want to do is you want to find the other one. The other one's under runtime options, so run.c.options, this one here. And you can see the system C group right here is false. So we're going to go ahead and go to insert mode. I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to do a : right quit. So systemd C group is enabled. So you're going to have to do that because any of the newer Linux distros, you're going to be using that particular C group. Okay, so now what we want to do is restart containerd. Perfect, that was super fast. And then this swap off, you can type swap off, but swap off is a temporary command and it's just going to come back. So what we're going to do is we're going to say edit fs tab, and we just want to comment this swap definition out like that, so we don't have a swap. We don't want swap on your Kubernetes nodes. So go ahead and disable that. And then I want to do some apt get repository type work. So I'm going to do a quick update here. Shouldn't take too long. And then we're going to go ahead and install a couple different tools. And then we want to get, we want to add the Kubernetes repository to our repo list. So we're going to go first and get the GPG keyring for that. And then we need to add that keyring and repo to the app list. And then we'll do an update again, because now it's going to read from that repo we just added. So you can see it right here, these two. Okay, so now it's ready. So I'm going to reboot this one because we had changed the swap setting. I just want to make sure that everything comes back up as expected. So I'm going to go ahead and say reboot. It's going to take it just a little bit of time. If we go ahead and bring this back up, you can see it rebooting right here. It won't take very long to reboot. It'll be back in a blip here. And it's probably good enough. We'll go ahead and just connect right back in. Oops, I fat fingered. Nope, maybe it's not good enough. I'm a little ahead of myself. Alrighty then. Oh, now it's asking for the password. Okay. All right. Sign into that bad boy. Type in the password, case control. Okay, so now we're ready. So we should have no swap. So if you type free-m, we can just check that really quick and you'll see the swap is 0, right? That's what you want. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is, let's change this to SU. We're gonna sign it. We're gonna install Kubernetes 1.29.1. And so basically what I'm saying is install -yes. You just don't ask me afterwards, right? Just do it. And then kubelet equals 1.291, kubeadmin, and kubectl all the same. So I noticed in the repo there is a 1.292, but if you go to Kubernetes official page, they say the latest release is 1.291. So I'm just going to stick with 1 for now. I don't know I don't know why Kubernetes.io didn't update their release page to say which 1.292 is the latest, but it doesn't really matter because I think it would be the same. Like if you wanted to go to 1.292, this same exact process would apply. You just change this to a 2 versus a 1. What we want to do also is we want to make sure we hold the versioning for kubelet, kubeadmin, kubectl, because we don't want those to get upgraded without us knowing, right? And so if you did an apt upgrade or something and all of a sudden all your tools are the wrong version, you didn't do the proper upgrade to the Kubernetes stack and you're going to have a problem. So you want to put those in a hold. We already ran the free-m. I did it a second ago, it basically said there was no swap, right? Which is what we want. The next command we're going to do is the kubeadmin init, which this actually initializes Kubernetes. We're picking the same 1.291. I'm setting the node name, and I'm also setting the pod CIDR network. Remember 10.10.00/16, which means 65,000 addresses roughly. And it's going to take a little bit of time to install that. So we'll go ahead and run this guy, and then what I want to do is let's open up another tab, and let's make that a little bigger for you guys, and we're going to go ahead and connect one of the other nodes. So SSH, why that one's running in the background. Kates-1. No, I don't know why I keep doing that. 192.168.15.94. And same password. We're going to have to run through this basically the same way that we just did for the others. So, and I just want to show, I don't know if I'm going to do both of these Kates 1 and 2 nodes for you, because I think it's going to be, end up being the same, right? You're just going to run these same commands a couple times. So I'm going to go through it pretty fast. Probably do all of these at once. Hopefully that works right. I don't know why I wouldn't, but kind of just no output, right? I guess the same invalid argument there. Yeah. We'll just trust that it's good. Let's run 2 of these at a time, see what it does. So it should download and then extract it. Perfect. And then we're going to do this one, reload and enable. Okay, and then we're going to go get RUNC. And then we're going to go ahead and get the CNI plugins. And that should extract it as well to the correct location, just like the last one. And then this one we have to do in 2 steps because we have to edit the config toml. And so we'll go ahead and go edit this guy, and we'll do the same thing. And we'll say system. I'm just doing a find. And then insert true, right quit. And then we want to restart container D on that. We want to edit fs tab, get rid of swap, and then I think it's a reboot. Swap off. Oh no, then we did some other stuff, my bad. Not quite yet. Go ahead and install those. Then I'll get the Kubernetes repo put in. It's taking its time. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah, I guess it worked. And then we'll do an update and see if it pulls the repo. It should pull the 2 Kubernetes repos. And then we're going to go ahead and reboot. All right, we'll let that one sit for a second. Okay, back at the Kubernetes control node. So it finished. So just in case you want to see what it looks like, we'll scroll up. So this was the kube command that we ran. When we switched out, it was here. And then it went through a bunch of different things as it set up Kubernetes. I don't see any errors or anything that would say there's any problem, and it looks like Kubernetes control plane was successfully initialized, which is good. Start up your cluster. You need to run the following as a regular user, or if you're a root user like we are, you can also just do this. So in this case, I'm going to do this. You can play around with these two. Ideally, you don't want people signing necessarily as root all the time. Certainly, if you're connecting remotely, you would want to do it a different way. So, but for this case, we're going to just do export the kube config, and here's your kube config file. And so if I don't do this, let me show you real quick. So if I don't export this kube config right now on this command, if I type like kubectl get nodes, it'll tell me, hey, I don't know what to connect to, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and export that. And so now it knows how to get to the Kubernetes cluster. So if you say get nodes, you can see Kate's control is there. It says not ready because we haven't installed the rest of the pieces. Like we're going to need to do the network stack stuff. So that's the next thing we do. So this is the command we ran here. We just exported the kube config. Now we want to install CALICO network or CALICO CNI. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is the latest CALICO version. I got this from their site. You can get the links. I put them all up at the top here, but that's where I got them. So this is basically its install instructions if you look at their doc. We're going to go ahead and get the custom resources file, and the reason we're doing this is because I have a different network for the pods, but then that's default. So default would be 192.168.0.0.16, which would overlap with my internal network, which would overlap with almost everybody's internal network at home. And so I wanted to change this to the 1010, just like we did on the kube init command. And so you want to make sure you do that before you, well, not before, because I guess this is after I've already created the kube stuff. But I'm setting custom resource and basically telling CALICO that my internal pod network is not the normal. It's 1010.16 instead. All right, so that's it. So now, like, if we were to go look at get nodes, it should eventually give us a ready. I don't know how long that takes, to be honest with you. Container creating, there you go. The CALICO is still installing, so we can kind of watch this. You want to pay attention to maybe the restarts. Like if you have a bunch of restarts on a pod, then chances are the pod's having an issue. So if you have none, that's good. And then we want them to all be in a running state. So once they're all in a running state, and the core DNS couldn't initialize either until the CALICO was there, because you didn't have a network system in this yet until we added CALICO. So core DNS didn't know what to do. It just sat there and waited until you had something, which is why it would show the node not ready. They're almost done. So container creating, it's getting close. It's like watching, pot boil, right? Watching water boil, it takes forever. So you can see it's pretty fast, and we're only at 65 seconds here, and it's almost done. API server's coming up. Core DNS is good to go. Come on, let's do this. container running. Oh, boom, they're all up. Well, it hasn't finished the ready checks on those particular pods, so we'll just have to wait a second for that. But I bet the get nodes is ready. Yeah, so it already thinks that it's ready. So so we're probably good to at least proceed. You would want to make sure that eventually these pods are already the correct number, 1/whatever or 2/whatever, depending on how many are requested versus how many you're actually running. You want those numbers to match. And everything's good to go. So there you go. So we are officially up and running on the Kate's control node. So now what we want to do is I'm going to run this command here, and it's going to give me a join command that I'm going to use on the worker node that I'm setting up right now. So the worker node we just rebooted. So we're going to SSH back into it. I'm going to cheat and go right into root again. And then let's see, so the reboot was here, right? So the next thing we need to do is the same thing. We're going to install kubelet, kubeadmin, etc. And then we're going to put a hold on those because we want to make sure that they don't get upgraded without us wanting them upgraded. You're going to want, like, the reason you do that again is because you want patches to be applied, because we're using apt install for this, that if you did like an apt upgrade and you didn't have them held, then it would literally just upgrade to the next latest release, because that's kind of what it's just supposed to do. I want to check the freem just to validate, no swap. Perfect. So you don't run these commands. This is only for the control plane stuff. You don't want to do any of this on the worker nodes. You just want to run this token create command. So if we go back to the Kate's control, we grab this command here, I'm going to copy that, and then we're going to go ahead and run it here. And this should configure Kubernetes on this node as a worker node. So let's see if that actually works. Okay, so we're on Kate's 1. So if we go to Kate's control and we say get nodes. Ooh, look at that. You have 2 nodes. That's great. So now if we say get pods, all namespaces, you're going to see the CALICO deployment is spreading, if you will, amongst all the nodes. And so basically it's deploying CALICO, the network stack, on the second node as well. And so it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Once all of these are done and they all say running, then then the node is going to go in a ready state. Like oh, it's already ready. That's crazy. It is interesting that it doesn't say that we have a worker role there. That's kind of interesting. Maybe that's because it's not ready yet. I don't know. Very interesting. I'd have to investigate what that might mean. Did I not install the worker role correctly? Or not define that? I might have to do a catch-up video on that one, because I don't know if I can troubleshoot that real fast. I didn't write it in my notes. And so, it seems to me like that should say worker, but maybe I'm misreading something. You would want it to be a worker node because you want deployments to go out there and run on that node. So ultimately you'd want it to be worker, but I think this gets you at least close enough to where you can build yourself a Kubernetes cluster. And so I think that's really it. Like if you wanted to do another node or 5 more nodes or whatever you want in your cluster, you can run these exact same commands on all the additional worker nodes. Now, keep in mind for the lab, this is fine to have a single control plane node. In a real environment, you're not going to want a single control plane node, because if you lost your control plane node, your etcd database, then your Kubernetes cluster would become useless. And so ideally, you want your control plane etc nodes to be in some increment of odd numbers, but preferably 3 and higher. So I think if you read the docs, it's like 3, 5, or 7, if I remember right. It just depends on the size of your cluster, right? You don't need 7 control plane etcd nodes if you've got 3 worker nodes, right? That doesn't make any sense. But I would recommend at least 3, so that way you can withstand at least a single node failure. And then you can get your worker nodes probably, who knows, I don't know, you maybe with 3 control plane nodes you could get 10, 15 worker nodes. It just depends. You'd have to go look at that. I think once you get to that state anyways, you're well into the Kubernetes world, and you've probably got some more experience on that anyways. But just for the lab purposes, 1 control plane is just fine. You're not going to be running production loads on this anyways. And so that's it. I think that's it for the video. I appreciate you guys, appreciate your time. Hope it was beneficial for you getting Kubernetes 1.29 running on Ubuntu. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or concerns. See you on the next one.